All right, thank you very much, Madam Reporter. It is an honor to be here this evening and to be sharing in ag education with all of you. I want to take this time to recognize and do some introductions for our honorable guests this evening. If you want to take some time, we'll start with Senator Turner, and then do Representative Harper, and then Representative Meyer. So if you would just do some brief introductions on your constituency, how you got into running for office, and your interest in ag education.
Thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to be with you this evening. I am very new. I actually was appointed to the State Senate on February the 6th. So I'm about a month and a half into it. I took the seat that Senator Andy Menard had, and he, left and went to work with the Governor Pritzker's administration. So I was appointed to fill his term. I'm very excited about the appointment, and really ready to hit the ground running and become involved and more knowledgeable about the entire district. Prior to coming to the Senate, I spent 10 years on the Sangamon County Board and then 10 years on the Springfield City Council. And as you know, Sangamon County is Springfield, but then everything around it is very rural. Agriculture plays a big role. And I always had constituents that were, farmers and involved with agriculture. So while I am new to this position, I am not new to agricultural issues. And really happy that I was able to, my first bill that got out of committee was one that was, that you all supported and actually brought to me. So I am excited to be a partner with you from the very beginning.
All right, thank you very much for that. And Senator Joyce, I did not mean to skip over you there. If you would go ahead and do your introduction.
Thank you, glad to. My name is Patrick Joyce. I've been the state senator for the 40th district for about a year and a half now. I come from a rural background and an ag background, and just as a little proof. I mean, this was from 1978 though, so it's a few years old. But looking forward to working in the ag industry, working forward to working with my counterpart in the ag committee, Representative Harper. Senator Turner already sponsoring legislation that I love. Looking forward to all the questions that we get today. I chair the ag committee in the Senate. I'm also on the health, the labor, the local government, and energy and public utilities. We are coming back to a bit of normalcy, slowly but surely in Springfield. I believe that lobbyists are going to be coming in the Capitol. Some of them already are, with safety protocols and testing. We have a lot of work to do. Last year, COVID really hurt our ability to get as much legislation put through as we needed. So we're pretty busy right now with the number of bills that are coming at us. Looking forward to your questions today and riveting conversation.
Hey, thank you very much, Representative Harper.
Greetings, everyone. Hello, Sonia Harper. I'm a representative for the 6th District that's in the city of Chicago. I've been a member of the Illinois House of Representatives for 5 years now, and I currently chair the Agriculture Committee, as well as I am the joint chair for the Legislative Black Caucus. Before coming to the legislature, I was a community organizer, and before that, I spent 10 years working in the TV news business as a reporter and producer. And I fell in love with agriculture while working in my community about 10 years ago, organizing around the issue of food justice, trying to bring healthy food options to my community, since I do live in a food desert, and in my community, we're trying to use our vacant land as a way to bring in food and jobs, trying to grow urban agriculture in many different ways. So that's what brings me to the wonderful world of agriculture. And since I've been here, I've been learning so much more and can't wait to delve into even more topics in the industry. Very much have loved all of my interactions with the Future Farmers of America and look forward to our work together. Thank you guys so much for the work that you do. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Representative. And finally, Representative Meyer.
Yeah, good afternoon. It's kind of a sad day when we don't have the blue coats running around the Capitol. We come quite accustomed to them. The problem I have with my blue coat from when I got it back in '74, it doesn't fit me anymore. So it's always a great day when they're here. I still live on our family farm. We farm 1,650 acres. We have a small herd of belted, red and white belted Galloways. We usually have 150 head of cattle on the farm at least, a corn, wheat, and soybean farm. Been very active. I would not be a state rep if it wasn't for 4-H and FFA. Those organizations gave me my abilities to learn to go out, speak in front of a crowd. I'm one of the few state reps that's never gone to college, but when my senior year, I was back on the tractor by 10 after 11 every day. We had a dairy farm back at that time. The cows were only sold when my mom was a hospice patient and there wasn't enough help to take care of her and the cows. So I've stayed very busy, used that as my background to go forward, served on the county board, ran for state rep. The J. Cigar organization, I joined right after high school, and that did a lot of networking across the state, much like what the FFA is going to do for you. You have to take advantage of it. I know it's a lot different being a Zoom meetings now, but this networking you're doing with all your other FFAers is really laying out your future for you. These are people that are going to stay your friends for life. They're going to be people in all different professions. When you need somebody to talk to about that profession, you can reach over to them and see what's going on. So it's one of the greatest organizations out there. And agriculture is one out of every 6 jobs in the state of Illinois. I work very closely with Representative Harper. She's been down and stayed on the farm. She's driven tractor and combine and that out on our farm. So I'm always happy to be promoting our industry. I'm going to walk over here real fast and see if I can pull this off. I'm not sure. I'm not that talented, but I'm going to show you the picture on the wall, hopefully, and you can see our farm there and the house that my great grandmother drug all the logs home with a team of mules. So, you know, ag is my life, and I'm always thankful for what FFA has done for me.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Meyer. I gotta tell you, the 108th is one of my favorite places to go because, you know, there in Highland, Blue Springs Cafe, you've got the foot high coconut pie, and I love coming to your district to come and visit that establishment. So thank you very much for being here this evening with us.
One thing I forgot to tell all the kids is if you were in Springfield, you'd be having a ski right now in Rep Meyer's office. Some weeks I go through 5 cases with the different groups coming through here, but that's made in my district, and FFAers, 4-H kids, everybody loves to ski.
Yeah, that's right. All right, next, I'm going to do another introduction here for a special guest we have this evening, Mr. Greg Webb with ADM. If you would please introduce yourself and your part as well.
Well, thank you very much for that, Colin. I've been a part of the FFA, not unlike Representative Meyer, go a long time back to being an FFA member many, many years ago, and have continued an interest in the organization. As he just told you, I think it's the greatest youth organization that I know of, especially when you consider its emphasis on drawing young men and women into the industry of agriculture. So very happy to be with you here this evening, and look forward to our special guest chatting with you and giving you some learning from that.
Thank you very much for that. We always appreciate everything that ADM does for us here in the FFA. So moving forward, we're going to start our kind of our question and answer session this evening, and different questions for different members of our panel. So this first question is this is directed towards Representative Harper and Senator Joyce. What has it been like to legislate through COVID-19? I know that's a very kind of wide-reaching question, but could you explain that experience to us?
Sure, I'll start. I'll say more for myself, and I'm sure maybe the same for my colleagues. But COVID-19 is making us work a whole lot harder than we, I think, have ever had to in our lives. Just the fact of going online and going virtual, and not being able to see folks face to face. There are many more requests for meetings, and I find myself sometimes in about 2 or 3 Zoom meetings at a time while the phone is ringing off the hook. And of course, just because we've been in a pandemic, and just because people have lost jobs, and people have food insecurity issues, the needs of people in the district have also grown, and so there's lots of more calls coming in as well. It's even been it's even been difficult working in Springfield. We're just now going back into the Capitol, the members of the House, as we had been in the Bank of Springfield Center, and just not being able to see each other, touch each other, the different parties that need to come together to either plan, create, or negotiate bills. We've had to figure out other ways to do that. So that's been my experience.
Yeah, Representative Harper is absolutely right. It's challenging with constituent services. We're just, I think I said at one point, it was constituent services on steroids. I mean, you have Secretary of State facilities closing and people needing to renew them. Unemployment issues were just, tenfold. Food pantries. I mean, you had food pantries all over the state that were just, they've never seen numbers like that, where they're used to 1,400 people a month. They have 4,000 and 6,000 people a week. So it was just a real challenging time. I know that Rep. Harper and myself and Senator Turner and Representative Myers, I mean, we've been going from place to place trying to help and get aid where aid's needed. It was a lot of phone calls, a lot of Zoom requests. When we are live, we may be hit 4 or 5 events in a day, and that's a full day. Now we get requests for 10 and 12 because you can just jump from one to the next, to the next, to the next, and you're just trying to get a snack in between or something to just keep you going because there's so many requests all the time. And the face-to-face interaction, I mean, I love it. I kind of thrive on it. And there's a lot easier ways to get communication. There's goods and bads to lobbyists, but lobbyists help us with a lot. We get thrown a lot of different bills at us that we're not an expert on every issue. So it's essential that we have that interaction to tell us what's good and bad in our district and what's good and bad for the state. So I'm anxious to see that all come back.
My experience is similar to Senator Joyce's from the standpoint that I enjoy and actually thrive off of being out in the community and having those one-on-one interactions with my constituents. I get people tease me all the time because I actually love parades, and this has just been a very difficult year because we haven't had that. We haven't had the parades, we haven't had the opportunities to interact and just have that one-on-one and being able to talk to people and hear their concerns. There's a Zoom and phone conferences, it's good, it's one way of communicating, but you lose a little bit of something when you're not, in actually face to face with someone. You can't really, you can't get the body language. Sometimes you miss some of the inflection in the dialogue, and so you really do, miss a little bit of it. And then, I was not really one that was real up on technology. So I thank God that I had grandchildren that were able to come and help their grandma learn about this, about doing this Zoom stuff. So I had not been in the city council chambers in a year. And so when we first started this, I had my grandkids come over and do a tutorial with me on Zoom because I was not going to be the dumbest person in that room when we went to that first Zoom. So Granny had to do something special for the grandkids for always being there and being so helpful. And then I will say that it has been a little bit more difficult for me as a new legislator, not being able to actually, be in the room with people and kind of get into the flow of, of session and all of that. I was so excited last week when we finally got back in the building, because I had actually just seen, people on Zoom, kind of that flat Stanley world, and seeing people from here up. So it was really good finally getting back in the building.
For me, down on our farm and taking care of the livestock, it really hit home very early on about this. When I got a call on a Sunday night at 9:30 in the night from the health department, wanting to figure out how to go out there and get a dead body tested for COVID, so they know that they had their first death in that county and the disease was there or not. That really throws it right into your face very fast, very quickly. We had facilities that couldn't get tests in nursing homes. I had to come to Springfield myself and almost wrestle them out of the Department of Public Health to take 200 tests down there for one nursing home. Couldn't get the protective gear for them. We had ladies making them in town who made them for the Murray Center, which is a home for very extremely handicapped people. They made gowns for the nursing homes. So trying to bring all the good out of your district together and tie it together to help people wherever you could, plus doing all the meetings you're doing at the same time. It's especially for our new reps and senators, it's just sad too that you've not got to feel that working together with everybody. Up here, you work with the lobbyists, you get to know them, and you work with our colleagues. Me and Sonia have become very good friends as we've worked together. Like I say, she's been down. I'm learning about her issues with urban gardening and other things. So yeah, a lot of things have changed by not being able to work together. It feels so great to be in Springfield today. The issues are massive yet for our state as we come out of it, trying to get the jobs back, trying to get people back to living their lifestyle. But we are getting there. We are moving bills on the House floor today. So slowly the state of Illinois will come back and we will get through this. But it has been a stressful time. And for the people who believe because we weren't in Springfield, we really weren't working, we've worked harder this year than we've worked all the other years, because it was nonstop, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you just answer your phone and you keep helping wherever you can.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Our next question, this is for Mr. Webb specifically. So we heard from the legislators, what has the impact been on ADM and how the year has shaped how you do business or how you approach business?
Well, thank you for that question. It has been quite different, as the elected officials have just commented. Physically being with legislators has been not very good so far, but I think that's going to improve. But the industry itself, when the blunt force of COVID-19 hit us in about a year ago now, in our business, especially on the food side, there are retail and then there are food service businesses, and the food service business absolutely cratered in just no time at all. But the resiliency of our industry was awesome because folks recalibrated. We knew that food service looked like it had a long road to hoe. And so a lot of effort went into the retail side of that. And so for companies in the supply chain like ADM, they actually were able to respond to that and did quite well. We did have some hiccups in other parts of our pipeline over the course of time. Some of our food processing plants where animals came in, the COVID gripped some of those too. And so with the pipeline of agriculture being mostly just-in-time inventories, you could get a ripple of that pretty fast. But again, the industry is pretty flexible, pretty agile, and pretty resilient. And so over the course of time, it didn't take long for folks to adjust and go back into that. As it relates, though, to talking with some of our esteemed members here on this panel, I've had a chance to be virtual with Representative Harper on a couple of things related to agriculture education. Those virtual opportunities are less so when the members are actually in session, but they're still reachable by telephone. We still have that handy tool as well for those of us who may not be able to get inside the Capitol. So it does change and adjust, but you know, there's a lot of information out there, bills that are being offered. As someone commented earlier, there are very many bills in the Illinois legislature this year. And so we'll try to stay up, Asia, on a lot of the things coming around, but the members remain open. They are interested in good public policy. And so for those of us who are in the lobbying aspects of things, we'll just want to remain a credible resource for them as they are determining, you know, what good outcomes might look like.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for that response. So this question is for the entire panel. We'll do this question and then we'll move. We got several good questions here in the chat. So I want to ask this question from our list and then we'll move to chat questions. Again, this is for everyone. In the grand scheme of things, how has, you know, ag legislation and ag advocacy changed, and how is it changing daily? Like whether it be bill topics or bill supporters or bill opposers, you know, not specifically, of course, but just the dynamic. How is ag advocacy changing daily? And we can go with the representatives and senators first, and then Mr. Webb, and just jump in whenever you'd like.
Well, the one thing that has come very, very clear is, you know, access to internet right now on advocacy on any issue, ag and everything else, is a big issue. I mean, rural broadband was one of our governor's main issues when he first got into office. We're finding that rural America is kind of taking it on the chin with virtual learning in our schools, and we got to make sure that we have the infrastructure in communities that don't have enough. That's a big part of it. But some of the things that are changing in the ag industry as far as issues that are coming up. I mean, carbon footprints on the ag industry. Ag right now is a net 9% carbon negative, and there's already programs that are in effect to get it to neutral or even a negative carbon footprint. I mean, nutrient loss legislation's a big deal right now, and there's a lot of programs that Department of Ag has initiatives on that can help with those strategies. I mean, precision farming is changing the industry, and your fertilizer and chemical reps and your nutrient people are really coming a long ways. And then one of the other big issues in our state that I think is changing a lot is water access. The aquifers in our state, everywhere, these small towns that we have in rural America, and in our cities, our water sources are changing. And I think you're going to see legislation in that regard on the front burner for the next 10 to 20 years.
I think that one of the things that I've seen during my time working with the local Sangamon County Farm Bureau and now at the state level is that there are so many different opportunities for students and individuals that are interested in going into the field of agriculture. You know, I think it's really interesting, and I'm a little envious of Representative Meyer for being able to, you know, live and work on a property that his great grandfather, you know, established. I mean, I think that's fantastic and such a legacy for him, and you know, and his children and grandchildren. That's fantastic. But we are seeing now that even children that have lived on the family farm are still interested in farming, but want to look at it from a different direction. And so I think that we are in a position now where we can open up a lot of those opportunities and have them still have that connectivity to their family legacy, but sprout their wings and look at it from a different perspective. And then I think that Representative Harper brings another dimension because she represents an urban area, but you see how agriculture and agricultural issues are very prominent for her and her constituencies. So I think that what we are seeing is that agriculture is a lot broader than just, farming. There's opportunities for a person to have an interest in agriculture and be able to look at it from a lot of different disciplines. And I think that that's a great thing. And that was one of the reasons why I thought that the legislation that we just passed out of committee was so important, because it gives students who may want to go in, are interested in agriculture, but want to look at it from different disciplines. It gives them the opportunity to do that.
Ag is changing so fast, and the state of Illinois is changing so fast. So as FFA members, part of this is up to you. We have to educate. And Senator Turner, I want you to know that you are always welcome down on my farm, and we'll have you driving the tractor and feeding the cattle. So it's easy to get there.
I would love to come down there and do that.
No,
Did I hear you say that you're around Highland, Illinois?
yeah, I'm a little further south. I live in Oakville, which is in Washington County.
Oh, okay. My former pastor is now the pastor of Highland Hope United Methodist Church.
Well, I will probably run into him and tell him I saw you sometime.
Okay.
But, as ag continues to change, it's up to the people who live in the ag industry, because we used to be a major part of the population, but we're less than 2% of the population now. So it's up to our FFA members, our ag communities, to go out there and educate the public and show them that, we are environmentalists too. A good farmer, all they want to do is make sure that we take care of that land and leave it in better shape than when it was given to us. I've put 14,000 trees on our farm, and I still farm 1,650 acres, but I found a place for trees and wetlands. So we have to educate the public on how we take care of our crops, our animals. There's a lot of disbelief on how terrible animals are taken. I've set up as a dairy farmer, going out every hour and rolling a down cow just to make sure that if she gets up, she'll be able to walk, because if you leave them lay flat for 6 hours, they'll never walk again. And people don't understand that, that's our livelihood. We take care of them. The farm is really a family member, and it's up to us to help the public understand that. We have to work with the broadband issues that we have in Southern Illinois and a lot of the outlying parts across the whole state. And one thing I've learned about Southern Illinois, it's truly anything once you get out of the Collard counties. The Collard counties have one set of problems, and the ag community has a separate set. It's for us both to understand each side so we can work together. My neighbor's son, who comes off the farm, is now set to manage all the PGA golf tournaments across the country. And that started with an ag industry. And he went in and started working at a major golf course and managing it up, and he's worked his way up. That's a job from ag. The ag tourism is huge now. Landscaping. And as we work with the environment and how we're going to have less nutrients going down our rivers, and how cattle are now being bred that actually put out less carbon, so you look for those traits, and the ag industry is there to help us get to the future and do it correctly. So the issues are constantly changing, but we're trying to work on it and keep moving with it.
Appreciate that. Representative Harper?
Yeah, I think all of the previous speakers kind of covered it. The world of agriculture, kind of is spreading and is changing, and we're seeing activities, we're seeing people, we're seeing advocacy organizations creep up around those. Technology, right, is expanding the number of opportunities and the types of jobs that we can have, and therefore the types of education that we'll need, and even the types of assistance from the state. And so I'm looking forward to continuing to discover, and delve into those issues as well.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to jump now to a question that was sent to me in the chat. It kind of parallels a little bit with one of the questions we had on our panel. But this question says they have a very strong interest in pursuing a career in ag lobbying or ag policy. So this might be this is a really good question for Mr. Webb. Do you have any advice on how to prepare for a career in advocacy policy like that?
Well, thank you for the question, Colin. The way I think about this is there's not a set course for any of us. Just as you've heard our legislators come from a myriad of backgrounds to become elected officials, I think that also is very healthy for the lobbying aspects of things too. Even in our ADM lobbying group, I came up through being a farm kid. I worked in the business for ADM for very many years before getting into the lobbying aspect at the state government level. Whereas some of my other teammates at ADM came up through campaigns. Some of them worked for members of Congress. Some of them worked for governors of states. So I think, for those of you who are interested in that, don't be limited. Do things that you love to do. And if your ultimate goal is to represent a company or a trade association or things like that, get a different background, because I think our lobbying efforts are enhanced because of the variety of backgrounds that we come from, and don't all look through the same set of glasses then whenever there's an issue pop up or whether there's an opportunity arise. So my guidance to you would be pursue the things you love to do with an eye towards what you'd ultimately like to do, but get a rounded background before diving into that.
Great, thank you. Anybody else on the panel would like to respond? They can feel free. All right. Next question. Have there been in this past year, this is another kind of a more broad question, have there been any benefits, you think, to the way the General Assembly has been structured? Do you think there is anything that has been changed that is now here to stay? Any policies that are here to stay, or any, operating procedures for legislation that might be here to stay that are more beneficial to the taxpayers of the state than they were before?
Well, one of the things that we did last year in the fall, the Senate adopted being able to hold committees virtually. I think there's always going to be the personal aspect of holding them in person, but it's a long state, geographically. So having that option now to do that, I think will be utilized in the future. And then we've also adopted the ability to vote remotely. Should a member of the House or the Senate, I know the Senate has the rules that you can vote remotely now. If someone is taken ill or something, it keeps them from coming to Springfield, they can still represent their constituency. I don't think that should be overutilized, but having those things in the queue, so to speak, I think is an advantage.
I believe that one of the things that's shown is, as we've been out working for a long time to expand broadband in the state, how important it really is to get it out into our rural areas. When we had parents at home trying to work from home and their children there was not enough network to keep 2, 3, or 4 iPads going at the same time. So one of the bigger things that will come out of this as far as moving forward is it has shown the desperate need. We tried several years ago to get a bill to move just that would have brought broadband into every county courthouse and county health department and hospital. And this was before COVID. And think how much better off we could have been if we'd had that done now. So this will help get the state and the technology we need hopefully into every county now. And some things will work with Zoom meetings, but personally, there's still nothing like that, meaning face to face, trying to work things out amongst your colleagues.
All right, thank you for those answers. I think Representative Harper, I believe, had to tend to some legislative business, but we appreciate the time that we were able to have here with her. This next question is again for the entire panel, and I think this is an awesome question. It says, in your opinion, what are the most beneficial events to host that can promote ag within communities that are more urban based or rural based as well? And I think before to answer this question along those lines, the Farm Bureau has the Adopt a Legislator program, which is an awesome program. So I think this question might be aligning with how to expand those opportunities and to kind of, if the right words, expose more legislators and policymakers to the life of rural America.
Being involved in, I was on the Farm Bureau board for 20 years, and I know Charlie's had a lot of interaction with them too, but they have a lot of, the ag in the classroom. We had an event in Kankakee County year after year where we had 30 different vendors on every aspect of agriculture you could have, teaching kids on livestock issues, on grain farming, on ethanol issues, on composting, on and we had a lot of kids from city settings that were coming in and just in awe and learning a lot at that venue. The ag in the classroom, I've been on both sides of it. I was part of a Farm Bureau that had adopted a legislator in Chicago, and now seeing from the legislator's point of view on it, how beneficial that would be for both parties. Really, it educates the legislator and educates the children. So I think those are two really good examples of how we can interact and educate.
I'd like to say, when we go forward, the ag in the classroom and the legislative adopting of legislators is huge. But once again, it's up to all of us to bring the community out, to tell our story. In the 80s, we went through where we wanted to streamline everybody that go to college. And we lost a lot of our ag programs in a lot of our schools. We lost our FFA chapters. And we lost it. And we fought. In my hometown, we lost ours. We've brought it back. It's very strong now. We buy everybody their FFA jacket. We pay for everything, do fundraisers, bring in about $20,000 a year for that. But we have to keep doing all programs, just like I've learned a lot about, and then continued learning from Sonia about the urban farming program. I've lined up Bayer to get her some seeds for the urban farms in Chicago, hoping to help with some other ones in other places. But we need these FFA chapters back in all the schools. We need the ag classes back in all the schools because ag is so diversified now. So as we talk to people, they have no idea that you have to milk a cow twice a day. The most of the population used to be everybody's grandparent almost came from a farm. Now most of the population has never even been on a farm. So anything we can do helps with that. Ag tourism helps with that. But we have to keep getting our story out there any way we can. So as you network with people across the state with FFA or any other groups, remember that. Tell your ag story. put out there what you're doing to help the environment as a farmer and the practices you're doing. Brag about the things that the FFA chapters do. You know, when there was tornadoes or fires on FFA chapters were the first ones out there helping. When there was sandbagging along the Mississippi, there were FFA members sandbagging. So these are all huge things that they can do to help promote ag as they do it. There's a lot of respect that goes with that blue coat when you put it on.
Thank you, and I could not agree more with the last part of your statement there. There's the Blue Jacket commands respect for sure all across the state. So another question from the chat, another excellent question. As senators, as lobbyists, and legislators, whatever it might be, how have your positions allowed you to connect producer and consumer, as well as connect producers to government actors and ag policy? How do you make those connections? You know, how do you tie that all in? Again, this is for the whole panel.
I guess I'll go first. I'll talk to you about House bill I'm carrying right now. I'm carrying House Bill 229. It's a biodiesel bill. Right now, there's tax incentives for B11 diesel. They're going to expire in another year and a half. We are trying to take them up to B20 diesel. So I'm out there working with the manufacturers because of the engines and making sure the all engines being produced now will burn B20 diesel. So, but I've been working with them trying to get their support. You have to work with the Illinois fuel marketers. So there's a different aspect of it that we're working with all the filling stations and their owners. You have to work with the petroleum plants because you have to get this biodiesel blended in with diesel. But it is a product that will help reduce carbon by 20% in the burning of our tractors, our semis, the garbage trucks, the school buses. So you quickly learn how to work with all people. Being a legislator here gives us, you have phone numbers and you just start calling and working with them. They reach out to you, and it's our responsibility, you know, to try to make, you want to carry a bill, and it's wonderful if you can get a bill that has no opposition. That's not going to happen all the time, but you want to sit here and you want to honor your word always. If you give your word that you'll hold a bill until you get an amendment, you don't move that bill until you get that amendment. Whatever agreements you make, you want to honor them and move forward with them. So and that's what I'm doing with this bill, trying to come to an agreement by working with all sides. And as you've noticed, I'm looking down. I've been sending out text messages and answering text messages yet while we're doing this. So if I forget a question, that's why. But I got bills moving and on different issues also. But the big one on ag was that we had an ag bill moving the other day that really didn't need to move. It affected what happened in Nebraska. In Illinois, we already have laws against it, but somebody, you know, didn't realize we had these laws on the book in Illinois. I knew it because I deal with that every day. So, you know, we just have to keep working with people, and coming to some type of agreement is far better than trying to shove something down somebody's throat when they don't want it. If you can work it out, it's so much better for everybody. And here lately, we have way too much of people butting heads, and we've lost the fact of reaching across the aisle and trying to work. And that's fault on all sides. You know, people have become Facebook warriors, and we need to come back and work together and come to agreements. And it's far better when we can do that on the bill.
Well, and I'm carrying the same bill Charlie is on the Senate side. It's Senate Bill 2394 on the biodiesel, talking to all the same people Charlie's talking to, and it's wonderful because they've said, well, I already talked to Charlie Meyer, so we're already working on that. So I appreciate the work you're doing for me, Rep. Meyer. I mean, we're working on the same goal, and Charlie's absolutely right on, you know, across the aisle, there has to be more cooperation. There's a lot of issues that the state of Illinois needs on both sides. And one thing that I'm finding quickly is that what you're doing as a legislator is you're getting people together and negotiating bills that are good for the entirety of the state. And some of the challenges I have in my district is I represent areas like Chicago Heights and Flossmoor and Park Forest, a very urban setting, and then I've got rural and suburban settings too. And those type of legislation that, you have to find a way to represent the entirety of your district. Lobbyists are an important part to the whole process. And I've talked to, like I said, the same people Charlie has on both sides, from the fuel industry and from the soybean association. And those are the challenges. And there's a lot of benefits to that piece of legislation. And that's just one example of many on all the bills that we're trying to move right now. And in chairing the Ag Committee for just a short amount of time, I'm working with my minority spokesman before the committee even convenes, and we're just having conversations on what's good, what's bad, and let's do something that works for everyone. And that's the challenge every day, is just trying to find good legislation that benefits. You're always going to upset someone, but trying to find just good legislation that does good things for our state. It's pretty simple when you boil it down to that.
There's one thing I forgot to say that I want to say. Out of all the committees, I believe in Springfield, Ag has always been the most bipartisan committee that there is out there. We have always went and worked well together to make sure that politics never affected the Ag Committee or the people in it. We want to stay working together with each other, and we want to do what's best for Ag across the state. So I am very thankful to be on that committee. Some of the committees aren't that way, but Ag is the most bipartisan committee out there, and it's by doing the networking.
That's right.
Mr. Webb, you want to weigh in?
Well, I think both of our esteemed officials have covered this well. What I would reemphasize, though, is that the interconnectivity of agriculture makes it a really fun industry to be involved. So you talked about linking the production to the ultimate consumer. We have that. I mean, in the state of Illinois, we have one of the most productive states for producing all kinds of crops. I mean, corn and soybean and wheat is what you see a lot of. But we lead the nation in horseradish, and we lead the nation in pumpkins. So there is a vast diversity of things that Illinois excels at in producing. But we're also benefited to have a world-class city in Chicago, where you have a lot of consumers then in that state alongside producing various kinds of crops. So I would just emphasize to you young leaders in FFA, the interconnectivity of our industry makes it a lot of fun to deal with, but it also is an opportunity, just as Representatives Meyer and Senator Joyce were just elaborating, working with people across the aisle bipartisanly. My charge to you as FFA leaders is to, go beyond the bounds of, your section. You're gonna have a culture pretty similar to other chapters in your section, but think about going to meet somebody from some other part of the state, because they may have a different background and a different view, and you're going to be made better people when you kind of can walk in everybody's shoes. So my charge to you is have fun in this industry, but it's really important, I think, that you understand backgrounds of people, because that makes us less myopic and much more tolerant for different kinds of perspectives as we advance the industry of food and agriculture.
And before I jump off, I'm going to leave ways to contact me in the chat, and I'd really encourage all of you to reach out. As Mr. Webb said, you don't have to be in my district to reach out. That blue coat that you're wearing demands a lot of respect. You reach out, and I think Representative Myers will agree to this wholeheartedly. I mean, once you reach out once, twice, get in front of your representative or another representative in the state of Illinois, and keep doing it, and tell your story, and tell them the good things that you're doing. We pay attention to those things. I mean, so, you know, everybody that's on this Zoom are already leaders, and just keep working on that and get in front of us and make us pay attention, because you deserve it. So I thank everybody. I got to jump off. I'll put my contacts in the chat. It's been a pleasure.
Hey, thank you very much, Senator, for being on here with us today. We're going to go ahead and do one more question so we can let Rep. Meyer and then Mr. Webb get back to their business for the rest of the evening. This question again from the chat. With the rising, fuel prices we see, what's the future look like? Is there going to be, you think, legislation for farmers and members of the ag community for the off-road fuel, or the fuel they get for their operations to be, more wide use than it is right now, let's say, to kind of combat and offset that issue for farmers with the rising fuel prices? What do you think the future of that looks like, and how can we shape that policy?
Well, I wanted to go back to one thing that Greg said a minute ago about Chicago. Illinois has the most Fortune 500 companies of any state out there. Most of these companies' headquarters are in and around the Chicago area. So, job-wise for you, these are huge opportunities. And when we've had businesses locate down in my area, and these are businesses, whether from India, Canada, Mexico, they've come, and they come because they like the work ethic. They love the work ethic of people raised on a farm. Use your FFA membership as a push, as a thing that helps open that door for you, that you have those work values, you've learned them, you're already proven you're a leader while you were in high school. Business employers are looking for that. On the fuel issue, we as a farming community always worry about the state of Illinois looking at more revenue and putting taxes on our inputs, which does scare us. Fuel prices are rising. The world is going back and using more fuels as it had in the past. So we have to watch that. There's always talk of the taxes coming back on our fuel, and possibly that we're using in the fields in our tractors. Right now, there's not anything mentioned on it this year, but we're constantly watching for it. We're working on it. Farm Bureau works very closely at trying to monitor all that as it's moving forward. They keep us updated. I talk with our Farm Bureau leadership 2 or 3 times a week. And if it's a busy week, maybe 7 or 8 times a week, even more than once a day as we move things. So we're always looking at these things. That's one of the big things about this biodiesel bill. It's one of our products. The oil's coming from making the soybean meal, and it's being used to help clean up the environment, reduce carbon, and the technology is there to do it now. So we have more product in the area. There's a talk of, in the clean energy bill, they want to take a million cars and turn them to electric by 2030. So that would do away with a lot of fuel use, but it's going to demand much more electric production to power up those cars and keep them charged. So the whole thing over fuel and how we're going to use it is always a moving target. None of us know where we're going to go. And things on a national level do affect it. When you look at President Biden stopping the production on the Keystone Pipeline, our fuel prices jumped instantly. That fuel now has to be moved by train instead of through a pipeline, which is slower and I believe, worse on the environment, but that's just my beliefs.
Appreciate that. Mr. Webb, anything to add?
Well, not really. I think Representative Meyer covered that well, Colin. Fuel is something that is supply and demand. As a biofuel producer, as ADM is, we are very interested in not only the inclusion of that because it's derived from agriculture, but also it's notable the kind of positive impact that either biodiesel or ethanol or a myriad of other kinds of agriculturally produced products can have in terms of greenhouse gas emissions and NOx and some other particulate emission kind of outcomes. So Representative Meyer was just talking about electric vehicles. I think for those of us who are involved in the combustion engine side of that, we have to keep championing that these are good outcomes for us as a society. And so while electric may be something that can be utilized in more dense areas, it's my belief that we'll be using combustion engines for a long time, and that we just need to figure out and continue to innovate how to make those more benign outputs for emissions tomorrow than they are today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Well, that is going to wrap up the panel portion for the evening. So at this time, I am going to throw it over to your State Treasurer, Emma Coons.
Thank you again to Representative Meyer and Mr. Webb for being on here today, as well as our other panelists. If you guys could give them a little bit of a golf clap or maybe a clap reaction. They did an amazing job and answered some really great questions, as well as Mr. Mosley. Thank you for leading our panel. We appreciate that greatly. Members, thank you for being an awesome representation of what this organization is. As always, we greatly appreciate ADM support for sponsoring our Ag Legislative Seminar and Day. So if we can do a little clap for that. I'm sure Mr. Webb had a hand in that too, so thank you to him. But with that, we hope that you all have an amazing night and you stay engaged with your local legislators. Take advantage of the contact information that Mr. Joyce gave us, as well as those from your local community. We know that they want to talk to you all because you are those leaders in agriculture that we've discussed today. So definitely taking advantage of it. And thank you all for being as engaged as you were tonight. And with that, we will see you all soon. So have a good night. You're free to log off.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you for organizing.
Thanks.